So my name is Larry Levitsky, and I'm Abe's nephew, and I've known him all my life. And when everybody talks about Abraham, it's interesting for me to see it from the perspective of this entire life, and to share with you some of the aspects of his life, the aspects that form the man is something that I guess I could help, or at least would like to share. One thing that's we must be mindful of is Abe grew up in an environment where his father was an Orthodox Jewish cantor and very serious Jewish man, and very rigid, and all his siblings became communists. So and serious communists, the WILL, all that kind of stuff. So Abe grew up in this thing in this family where there's all this rigidity, ideological rigidity on each side. There was a 9-year difference between him and his closest sibling. So he was sort of figuring things out for himself, and realized that I didn't like what was in front of me this way, I didn't like on the other side. So I think that helped sort of free him up a little bit. And he became the prodigal son in the family. In fact, the entire family stayed in the New York metropolitan area, and that's when they decided to leave for Ann Arbor, stay in St. Louis, go to California. He didn't particularly enjoy his family. Obviously, he kept in touch. For me, though, he was my savior. As a kid, as a boy. He was the one with whom I played tennis, with whom I played football with. What I loved about Abraham was, again, his sense of humor, and I was actually hoping more people would tell jokes of his, but he would come, he would come to town, and everybody would just, Abe's in town, it's time to party, basically. And partying was a very funny thing, because Abraham, and I'd never seen anything like this, and he would go to 3 different families, and everybody would buy a big, very rich chocolate cake. Yeah. Abe would come that night, and you wake up in the morning, and the very first bite you have in the day was chocolate cake and coffee. So we used to wake up in the morning with Abe and have chocolate cake. And that was Abe's arrival, right? And then the house would be full of laughter because Abe would tell jokes all the time. So it was just great that way. And for me, again, coming from a very repressed Jewish family, to have this spirit in my life was important. But to share a joke, well, first of all, I must tell you, because the story of Abraham's last words were very important to me, and I was with Nina that morning as well, at Arinda. And the way that we knew that Abe actually said those words, "I'm ready for the future," was because we were a little bit dubious. But when the nurse said, "Oh, but he did this shrug," and if you all know Abe, there's that shrug. Well, I finally got Abe a joke that he loved, and all my life I've been working on jokes to tell Abe, and he never really liked my jokes. But finally I told Abe a joke that he loved, and it was, "Why do Jews have short necks?" So anyway, so I finally got a joke in there for Abe, and he loved it. And that's why I knew that last line was his last line, because the nurse said, because Nina and I didn't prompt her for that. She just said, she said, "What did you say?" And he just went like that. And that's Abe, So that's when we knew, when she did that, Nina and I knew he said that, "I'm ready for the future," which for me was really great, because if you know Abe, you know that he was, Steve, you were so important to him, but he's searching for enlightenment, and always frustrated that he didn't get there himself. Right? Always. I always ask, "But Abe, you've been teaching this stuff for years, Where are you in this place, And he's like, I'm not there yet, reading all these books, The Treasure of Traditional Wisdom and all this, but he was never there. And it was always like holding on. He was sort of too grounded, too much gravity, too much surus, a lot of surus. And that's a Jewish word for worry. For you goyim in there. So when she said that, "I'm ready for the future," I realized, he gave up. He gave in. He gave in to the light, and I loved it. Anyways, the joke. And if you all have more jokes of Abe's, I would love to hear them. But the joke that I actually remember a lot of them, but this is the one I can tell the best. It's during Passover, and this rabbi makes a habit of every Passover, every day, going to the park and having lunch on the park bench. And so this happens to be a day that he's going to the park to have lunch, but it's matzah that he has with him because it's Passover. So he goes to the park and sits down. He takes out his lunch. You've heard this already. She's nodding like I know this one.
Give us the punchline. We'll tell you the
So you know the joke too? Okay, so a blind man sits down and right next to the rabbi, and the rabbi's saying, as a matter of courtesy, you have to share your food. So the rabbi passes on a piece of matzah. So the blind man takes the matzah and he fingers it and got up in a huff and said, "Who wrote this shit?"